Hi everyone, been a long time since I've put any videos up. It's just been really crazy busy. Work's been busy, home life's been busy, and just YouTube's not a priority, so I've not been putting much stuff out. But I've just come off like the back of 3 jobs that kind of overrun into each other, and the workshop got in a total state. So normally I like to take a bit of time between jobs to sort out and tidy up, and I didn't. So I've just had like a 3-day purge, and I've cleared all the offcuts, got the timber back in the racks, like tidied up the sheet racks, tidied up the spray room, deep cleaned the spray guns. I've even hoovered, like I've really tidied up. And I thought, well, if I don't make a video of little kind of changes to the workshops now, I'm probably never going to do it. Hopefully you can hear me okay. It is absolutely lashing it down in the UK at the minute. It's been raining for like 3 days here. Garden's under like 2 inches of water. It's horrific. So I'm trying to record using my headphone mic, but I've not done that before, so I don't know how well that actually works. But I guess we'll find out. So yeah, just thought we'll start from the front door. We'll come in, go around, kind of have a look, change a few machines, change a bit of layout, and just see what's going on. I think this now, as it stands, as I'm set up at the minute, fairly happy with it. I mean, obviously there's things you want to upgrade, there always is, but I think like this is a good setup for an individual furniture maker. If you're like a one-man band making furniture and cabinets, what we've got here now is probably pretty reasonable. You can do like quite an efficient job. I would like to get someone else in here with me. I don't know if it's a bit tight on space. I think I'd be okay. I think there's enough separate spaces that someone could be doing a bit of CNC work while someone's doing some assembly. Someone could be spraying while someone's making stuff. But it will be a lot better. The plan, long-term plan, is to add like another sort of 900 square foot on the end, which will become a designated spray room, drying room, and staging area. And it will also be like a goods out, get a roller shutter on there so that pallets can go out, because I'm doing more palleted furniture going out to London and stuff now. So that's the long-term plan, but obviously it's not going to happen anytime soon. Not got time to do it. All the funds, it's expensive. So I think where we are now is probably where I'm going to be for the next couple of years, realistically. So let's grab the phone and have a little look around. I haven't got a tripod, I'm afraid, so I'll try not to be too wobbly. Right then, so here's the front door. I won't do the classic walking through the front door YouTube shop tour thing because, as you can see, it is grim. Right, so imagine I've walked through the front door. So as we come through, on this right-hand side here, we've basically got like a rack that I put stuff that I'm using at the minute in. The idea of it originally was that it'd be a bit of a parts rack, but it's ended up being a bit of a catch-all for timber on the jobs that I'm on. It has things like, for example, this here is all lipping material for veneered work, and rather than machining up a bit of 27 by 10 mil lipping every time I want it, I'll just do a big run of it, run up a few planks worth, because you get tons out of a couple of boards, tape it up, leave it there, and then I've just got lipping, and try and use some slightly different coloured bits so I can try and get a nice coloured match with the oak when I've got the veneer, depending on what the veneer looks like. So this is just kind of like slightly scrappy wood, slightly being used on the project I'm on, but it's sort of usable. In here we have what used to be the office. I use that in the loosest possible sense of the word because it was a dumping ground for crap, is what it was. It just had rubbish in there, basically. So I thought if it's going to be a dumping ground, might as well make it a storeroom. So I've put a couple of these metal shelving racks up and just got stuff in here, just like things and stuff and things. Keep the blankets in here, all of the cabinet legs, handle hardware, drawer runners, bits and bobs, bit of paperwork that I need to keep hold of but haven't really got anywhere to put. And then there's packaging. There's some old offcuts of carpet there. I've been sending a bit of furniture down in pallets, and I just cut a bit of that, put it under the furniture on the pallet before I case it up in a plywood box, and it just helps give a bit of protection, stop the feet getting damaged. And then over on the left here, this here is now all of the offcuts I'm keeping of MDF and stuff. If it doesn't fit in this little space, it goes in the bin because it just gets ridiculous. I hold all these stupid little bits of MDF thinking, oh, it'd be all right, it'd be a false fence with a spindle or whatever it's going to be. And it literally just sits there forever. I've got enough bit supply there to do false fences on the spindle every week, fresh for the rest of my career, I think. So I don't need any more. So that's the new rule. If it doesn't fit in there, being ruthless, it's getting chopped up and going in the burner. We have a load of trolleys up here. I make a fair few kitchens, and it's just working. I am totally by myself. I work. I don't have anyone working with me at all. And just being able to build cabinets on the dollies. and then roll them around just makes it possible to work by yourself doing those bigger projects. It's still hard work, but it's much better than trying to shuffle them, and you're less likely to damage things as well. We've got a load of English ash here. This is what's left of an absolute ton of it. I think I had about 1,000 lamps of it, or 800 lamps of it. Yeah, it was 4 lots of 200, so 800 lamps. But this is really nice drawer box material, and that's all we've got left now. It's been, I'm really pleased to bought that actually. It's been a good buy. Made a lot of drawers out of it. Nice planks, really nice looking timber. A lot of it's quarter sawn, as you can see there. So nice stable stuff as well for a bit of face frame material and things if hash is what people want, if they want to see a bit of grain. So coming through into the main workshop. So this is coming through here. So we've still got the burner, wood burners here. Had a bit of an explosion with a 25 litre drum of primer, put it in front of there to warm up because it was really cold, and I forgot to undo the lid clip, so that went kaboom. So we got a lot of paint everywhere, but it didn't really matter. The workshop's scruffy anyway, so fan above the heater just keep things warm. This is the wide belt sander. Now it's old, but it was cheap. It's a fickle beast, but given the options, my choices are no wide belt sander or a cheap but slightly dubious wide belt sander, and I'd definitely always choose the second one. It's still super useful. I probably wouldn't trust it to, sand veneer and stuff, but for just calibrating blanks and things, it's indispensable, and I just wouldn't want to be without it. So, you put up with the quirks. She's got a googly eyes. She has got a shake to her when she gets going, so those eyes do Google. They are functional googly eyes. I've got my little desk down here. Just got my laptop, do a bit of programming for the CNC. So I never used the office. I always used to just sit here anyway, because normally I was kind of like having something going on. It's right next to fire, so it's nice and warm. So that's that. Over here, still got the old grinder. That's that old Wadkin drill press. Come out of an RAF base. And an old mortiser. And then there's a compressor hidden in the corner down there. I mean, to be honest, none of those tools over there get used. They're things that sit there because I can't get rid of them. I don't really use them. That's too fast to be really usable to drill, apart from for tiny drill bits. It'd be okay if you was like doing, 4mm pilot holes with it or something, but you put a Forstner in it, it's like a bloody helicopter. It wants to take off. So, yeah, it's just a bit quick, really. Then we've got the diesel burner. Now, that wasn't working very well this year, and I couldn't work out why. And I did a bit of investigating. I serviced the burner on it, and then I realised that there's a 1,200 litre diesel tank outside that feeds it. Somehow it's got like 120 litres of water in it. I've siphoned it all off. I mean, luckily the diesel floats on top of the water, so it's nice and easy to siphon. You drop hose to the bottom and just siphon out from the bottom. But I couldn't believe it. So I've checked, can't see a crack in it. I don't know whether it's 30 years of condensation that's got trapped under the diesel or what, but for whatever reason. But now that is working again, which is handy. This is a new addition. Very pleased with this. This is a DIY Heath Robinson budget job, but it works phenomenally well. And so you can see down there's a vacuum press. And this is a vacuum press table, so like a veneering table, and it works absolutely excellent. I can get about 0.85 atmospheres of vacuum on it, which, if you do your milligrams of whatever of mercury, that's like 25-ish, which I think that's a good amount of vacuum to get on a vacuum table. It's got a little timer down there, so I know how long my things have been in. A little on-off switch for the vacuum press, so you don't have to sneak around the back of it. And then we've got sort of veneering bits in here. We've got some UF glue, some glue rollers, bit of edge banding and stuff that might get used. But yeah, really pleased with this. It's been an excellent thing to have in the workshop. Used it a ton. If anyone's interested in sort of finding out a bit more about it, I'd be happy to do a video on how I made it and stuff. And then literally when the top's down, it's got a 25mm MDF top and it does make it quite heavy, but I'm not too fussed. And so it's a bit of extra work surface, so that can be quite handy too. Right opposite that is the planer thicknesser. And it's kind of handy having that big horizontal surface there, because when you're machining up a lot of timber, I can get a stack of face frame components on there, go from trolley this side, and it goes from there, onto the trolley, and back across as it gets thickness. Makes for a nice workflow. So quite pleased with how that works. That's still got the aftermarket spiral cutter head in it, which got for it. Really pleased with that still. Would 100% recommend it to anyone who wants to get one of those. They are absolutely brilliant. Really awkward how well that machine works. That isn't a particularly high-end machine. I would say it was marketed as light trade use, sort of like trade beginner machine. but I would probably kind of say it's more at the upper end of a good hobby machine, really. But that has been exceptional. And the only good thing about this is back when record, it's an old machine. This one, it's an old record. I think it's one of the first ones with these kind of newer colours, and it's still Bulgarian made, so it's a European made one. It's made by ZM Stamona, which actually makes some nice machinery under license. So I think that's kind of the last generation of better made record power machines before they became slightly cheaper, sort of manufactured in China and a little bit more budget friendly. So then over here we've got the old SCM spindle molder. Seen that before if you've seen other videos. If you haven't, this is an old SCM spindle molder. It's got a little power feed on it, which is okay. I'd like a heavier one. It's not the best, but it's okay. But it works quite well. It's a nice spindle. That didn't work when I got it, restored that, got it working. It has got a sheared tooth on the rise and fall. So there's a bit of a jump in the rise and fall. It does still work. You can get it up and down. But like there's like a little range of movement in the middle, which you can't use. Which I get around it easy enough because you can just shuffle the spacer rings and move your cutter block up 10 mil or down 10 mil. So it's fine. But I did look at getting a spare and I contacted SCM in Italy, and it's literally like a 4-inch long little bit of rack from like a rack and pinion mechanism. And it's like 380 quid. And I just thought, that just seems obscene. So I'm not paying that. So I just get around it. And to be honest, so far, it's not really mattered at all. It's like a little bronze phosphor thing. I might have a go at machining it on the CNC at some point, but it's not a priority because it's still usable. Over here, we've just got a cabinet. It's got a bit of spindle molder tooling down here, just a few cutter blocks and bits, some cabinet door sets and things. Didn't get used a lot. A little tool mech sharpener, which is, I mainly use a little diamond plate. It's only a cheap one, not expensive one, but the tool mech's good when it gets really bad, just for kind of like regrinding an edge on it. And there's a little tiny drill press there that I think at the minute it's got a plug cutter in it, but generally I just use it for any metal that needs drilling, just so I'm not getting metal shavings on the CNC or flicked about the workshop in the rest of the place where I don't want it. So it's just like a little metal drill. This is the Hoffman dovetail machine. I've got some other videos showing this working. It's fantastic for beaded face frames. That's really, all my work, I don't do overlay work really at all. There's the odd exception for like a real modern job, but pretty much everything's in frame. And a lot of my work is beaded face frames. So that really is invaluable for me. It gets used a lot. And then there's the Craig. And this has one purpose in my workshop. It attaches face frames to carcasses. So I do pocket holes in the front edge of my carcass from the outside, and that attaches the face frame. That is literally the only thing it gets used for. But for that, it's absolutely spot on. And I'd say, actually, if you're kind of starting out a small cabinet shop and you've got some real basics, like for the money this costs, this is probably one of the best things you can buy, really. I think it's like 300 quid, 350 quid, something like that, brand new. And it speeds up pocket holes no end. Some people would put their face frames together with pocket holes and stuff as well. So if you're using it for that, you're getting really good value out of it. But I say I just use it for attaching the carcasses, and I'd buy it again tomorrow if it ever died. So, good investment, I think that is for someone. Just there's the shop hoover, the actual floor hoover for hoovering the floor. And that is my Olmec dovetailer. And this is, since I've had this, I did do a video when I bought this, it wasn't running, and it's now running. I reckon I've probably made maybe getting on for 100 drawer boxes with it since I've got it, and it has been absolutely spot on. Like, cracking machine, really good machine, and just a massive time saver. Just works fantastically well at the thing that it does, which is to make dovetails with an even, dovetail drawer boxes with an even dovetail spacing. Now I leave it set to 50 mil all the time. So all of my drawer boxes in my furniture, I design them to take either 100, 150, 200, 250 or 300 mil drawer boxes. So like I'm stepping up in that increment. So I'm designing within the capacity of the machine. If you get one of like the fancier ones like the F8 or, the CNC controlled ones, it can variably space those dovetails and stuff. But this is really just working very simply. It's got a follower pin that follows this pattern, and it's really a glorified version of a normal router jig. So, I don't want to ask too much of it. And really could not be happier with it. Great bit of kit. Over here we have more spindle molder tooling. This is more sort of like my day-to-day sort of stuff, rebate blocks and profile knives and all the knives that you collect over time, use for one job and then don't throw away and just sit there forever. It's a bit more tooling at the top there. And then here we have, these are, they're not new, but there's something, but these are just like cheap plastic sawhorses. And they don't hold tons of weight, but they're so easy to pick up and move. I've got some of the really expensive metal ones, like the tough built type ones. but I don't use them because they're a pain to fold out and unfold. You can fold these and unfold in one hand, and they're lightweight. They cost next to nothing really. So I think having like a good bundle of these cheap sawhorses is a really worthwhile thing in the workshop. It's just really handy. You know, if you've got someone in you giving you a hand with sanding or something, it's really quick to set up a little bench. Same with those little Keta benches. They're great as well. Fold out, just take up no space when you're not using them. Good bits of kit. So let's head over here. So still got the same panel saw, just a basic panel saw, no CNC control, no digital readouts. We've got tape measures and your eye, and that's it. But for what I use it for, this has been a fantastic machine. I bought it. It was kind of new, it kind of wasn't. It was next display one from the Axminster showroom down in Devon. So I got a good deal on it, and it had been run before, but it had literally just been the floor model. So it had been used for doing some demos and stuff, but it was not completely new, but it was near as. And I've had this for nearly 10 years now. And it was really worthwhile buying. It's made earlier on when I didn't have the CNC and I didn't have some of the other equipment I had. This really made my business. This is what allowed me to make money. Without it, I don't think I would have been able to have made money on jobs. So, you know, panel saw, it's surprising. It always amazes me how many sort of professional workshops I see on YouTube, especially kind of big American cabinet shops where they've got 5 or 6 employees and they haven't got a sliding panel saw. And I don't know whether it's just a bit of a difference in the way that shops tend to work out there. You know, they have 6 cabinet saws, which you don't really tend to see in workshops in the UK, but no panel saw. And it just, I don't really know if you're processing sheet goods. I don't know why you would not have one if you've got multiple employees, because that saw you're going to pay for once and it's going to probably near enough do as much work as what having another employee would once you're at that kind of level. You know, one guy with a panel saw can cut up a lot of very accurately sized and dimensioned sheet goods. So yeah, pleased with that. So spinning round, go around here. We've got, these are the old trolleys that I use just for parts and bits. They're kind of handy to have. When they're empty, I just park there out of the way. This is another new machine. If you've watched before and seen some older videos, I did have a big Dominion English-made cast iron 4-sided planer thickness. Well, it was actually a 5-head. It was a moulder as well, but I didn't use a 5th head in it. And this has replaced it. So this is an SCM Syntex, an Italian-made machine, 2002. And there's kind of 3 reasons why I've replaced it. I mean, the Dominion was undoubtedly heavier built and better manufactured. It was all cast. Everything was heavy on it. It was a fantastically well-made bit of kit, but it had 3 main downsides, and this addresses all of them. The first one is just the size of material that you can machine on it. So this is a 180 millimeters wide by, I think it's 105 millimeters high. So if you're American, that's like 4 by 7 and a bit inches. The old Dominion was basically 75 by 150 wide, so it was like a 6x3. And having that extra inch and a bit of width is really handy. It makes a big difference. A lot of things that I machine up were just are slightly beyond the capacity of the old Dominion, so that's been good. The second thing that makes a massive difference is we've got caliper readouts. So the old Dominion was really good at holding it setting. Once you got it set where you wanted it, it would stay there. But it took you quite a while to fine adjust. So if you was just running up a couple of bits of timber, you wouldn't tend to use it because it took you so long to adjust the setting on it that by the time you'd done that, you could have just base and edged it and planed it up on the planer thicknesser. So like having these readouts, which are really nice and accurate, that makes a big difference. And then the third thing that makes a big difference on these, don't know if you can see very well, I'll try and get you in there, is the cut heads on it. I've got Tersa knives. So that's a self-setting knife. I think they're Swiss. But basically the knife blades set themselves, the planer knives set themselves. So you don't have to adjust them. My old Dominion had 4 blocks, each with 4 knife cutter blocks. So, you'd have 16 blades to set in the head. You did have the setting tools, which helped, but it was a big job. And like anything, if it's a big job, you put it off because it's a pain and you don't want to do it. And so I'd end up running it with dull knives, really. Just because I didn't want to spend 2 hours setting up the knives again just to run a few bits of wood. Whereas with this, 10 minutes, I can literally change out all the knives on this machine in 10 minutes. Now, I would like spiral knives in it, would be even better. Spiral cutter blocks like carbide insert. But the Tersa are good enough. And you can get carbide Tersa blades, which last really well. And I do know a lot of shops who pick Tersa over spiral because they slightly prefer the finish, especially on some timbers. So, but I think personally, you can't beat those spiral blocks. So I'll probably do that at some point. But that can be years before that happens. I'm quite happy with it for now. Here we've got a little router table, and doesn't get used a lot, but it's kind of handy to have. Normally just has a little chamfer bit in it for doing small chamfers or maybe stop chamfers on something or whatever, but doesn't get used a ton, but it's kind of handy to just have about. It's one of those things, if you sold it, you wouldn't get anything for it. It's kind of useful when the occasion you do need it. So that's, you just keep hold of it. Over here, we've got some scrap bins for the burner. That's all stuff that goes in the fire. Here we have my bandsaw. It's a hammer, which is like a Felder. You've heard of Felder, hammer made by Felder. It's their cheaper range. It's okay. As okay is about the best I'd say about it. I don't think it's a particularly. I think probably for the price point, there are better bandsaws from lesser respected names. Just something like Axminster or some of the kind of what I consider more hobby brands probably make a better bandsaw. The Record Power bandsaws are good for the money. I've used a few of them and they've always been nicely made. So, I probably wouldn't buy it again. But again, I didn't buy it new. It was used. It was cheap. Had a bit of damage, and so I did a bit of work on it, got it running. But it's okay. There's a little spindle molder, a little cheap Chinese one, and that gets used for one thing and one thing only, and that is for putting grooves in drawer bottoms. Sometimes use it for grooving out for shaker doors as well occasionally, but it is just kept with a groover in, and it's very handy to have a second spindle that you don't touch that's always set for that, because nearly every project I do is going to have drawers in it. So that's the setup that I do pretty much on every job. So it's nice having that there. Got the dust extractor, Franken extractor. That is, I've put a bigger motor on it. Now I've actually got a much bigger motor over here, bigger fan and motor assembly. So that's like a 7.5 horsepower. It's a huge one. But I think the filters will be too restrictive for that. So in the meantime, I got this super cheap at an auction. I think I paid 11 quid for it. It was attached to an extractor, but the extractor was damaged, but the fan was fine. So that's a 5.5 horsepower that's on there for now, canister filters. At some point, I want to fabricate up a 4 canister filter extractor with a 7.5, because that does still struggle a bit. I mean, this produces some chips, especially if you're taking bigger cuts. You'd be amazed how much, you can fill those 2 bags in 15 minutes of machining, no problem. So the more suction you can get to that, the better, because if the chips aren't cleared, they'll compress against the fence, and they can push your wood out, cause you to introduce a bit of bow or something. So definitely would like to get that done, but again, not super major priority at the minute. We've got a little tenon. Doesn't get used as much anymore, really, because I don't tend to do a lot. I used to use it a lot for windows and stuff, and I'd use it for scribed profiled doors. So say you had like an ovalo profile on like a cabinet door, 22mm cabinet door, 3/4 inch cabinet door. I would use it for the scribe cut, because you can see here, although it's got straight knives, it's also got these bits here which can take kind of like standard Euro style scribe knives. Like most of the big tooling companies produce them for multi-co-tenders. I don't know if they're popular in the rest of the world, but in the UK, like nearly every workshop's got one of these multi-co-tenders. You can pick them up for 500-600 quid all the time. They're just everywhere. So it's a real popular machine. So there's loads of tooling available for them still. So it used to be good for that, but I say most people just want a shaker door now. So I tend to then just do my tenons on the spindle molder because they're a bit quicker. But it's got an option. There is the miter saw, which I don't leave set up most of the time. It just lives there, and then if I do need to use it for something, I'll set it up. But I do most of my accurate cross cutting on my panel saw. And if it's rough cross cutting big timber to bring it in the workshop, I tend to do it out in the driveway anyway. So I'll take that out onto the drive to cut things up. Obviously not when the weather's like this. Over here we've got little like MFT style top workbench. It's only on trestles. I would like to obviously have a nice bench there, but again, it's a time thing. But it's handy. It's got a couple of old cabinets that were destined for the skip underneath. That's just got, like the drawer in there's got some various Bessie hold downs and stuff. And I keep my track saw there, and there's probably half a dozen little routers scattered around underneath that have got various cutters in. So they're just set up for doing one cut, so you're not having to change bits. I think getting multiple cheap trim routers, I mean, those are just those cheap Katsu Chinese ones. It's a real good time saver, especially if you use like a few bits all the time, like an arris removal, small chamfer, whatever it might be. Like a top bearing and bottom bearing patting bit. You can just leave it permanently set up, and it does save you some time. And I think those were about 25 quid, 100 quid's worth of routers. You saved yourself a lot of time switching bits there. So I've got some toolboxes and bits. face frame notcher. Done lots of videos on this in the past, so I'll not go too much into detail for it, but you basically got a very, very sharp guillotine with a very small clearance at the bottom there, and you can see it cuts against those, and it just cuts a perfect notch for a beaded face frame for a mason's mitre. So that's, you know, really good bit of kit. Again, very specific, does one job and does one job very well. If you're doing a lot of that kind of work, it's a no-brainer. If you're doing the odd job like that, then it makes no sense to buy it at all, because it's not, you know, kind of, it's not like a really adaptable machine that you can use for lots of different things. You can cut miters on it, but it doesn't do it as well as just a standard miter guillotine that's cheap. Or it probably doesn't even do them as well as chop saw. You got to pack the deck fence off and stuff. So it's not really good for anything else. But for the one thing it does do, it does really well. So yeah, so a few little toolbox and bits. There's my little bench extractor. You know, it's like the little for power tools and stuff. It's an old Festool Mini. MIDI even. I think it's on its way out actually. It's gets hot very quickly now, so it'll probably be replaced. But again, that's probably 10 years old, so I've not done bad out of it. I've got a big extraction fan here, which in the summer when it's nice, I'll open up this window, those windows over there, and if I'm sanding a machine in, get a really good cross breeze with that fan on. It sucks all the dust out. So it's like nice to, when you're stood at this bench denibbing primer or something in the summer, you know, it just keeps the dust right down. It's a bit like having a downdraft table, really. You know, it just keeps a flow of air away from your face. So then we've got just some sanding discs, kind of keep them over here just on the windowsill ledge because it's kind of near the bench and you spend a lot of time sanding when you make wooden things for a living. So these are some homemade clamps for putting lip-ins on. They're just a bit of bike tyre inner tube on some of those cheap market stall spring clamps. I think I've got about 40 of them now, something like that. But they're really handy. Do a lot of veneering now. Kind of, it's become something that I just do a lot of. Partly because I think I've kind of pushed towards doing it. I enjoy it more, so I kind of design things with veneering in mind on it more often. And partly because I've done a couple of projects that got some really good traction on social media that veneered, and so I get a lot of inquiries for those projects now. So you know, it's got a lot more demand than I had for it. Over here, just got to say, this is the Mercer sander that just lives there all the time, because you're pretty much always using a sander at some point. Mirror for getting bits out your eye because I've got a dodgy eye and I'm always getting rubbish in it. Little planer, these little Bosch 12-volt tools, massive fan of these. I think they're really well made. I think the first video I ever put up, probably 5 or 6 years ago, was about a Bosch tool, and really good. This is just an old shelf unit that I ripped out, and it just like happens to be perfectly 2 sustainers wide. So I thought, right, we'll use that for putting some sustainers in, spot on. So that's what we've done with that. It is just like an old cabinet that was getting pulled out and going in the skip, but it would do me fine. So my workshop is like a workshop for working in. It's not pretty, and I'd like it to be. You know, I'd love it to be like you see these workshops on YouTube are like really pleasant places to be, but it is just practical. So then down here I still have like my regular, this is like my installing tools for on site. Oh, that's my calculator dead. These are like my installing tools for on site. So I've got like lasers and bits, profile gauges for scribing, just some planes and stuff. There's kind of bits for a little bit of kind of like plumbing and electrical if you need to do little odds and sods, some windbags and things. But really, most of what I need, if I take that little stack with this has got like all my drill bits and stuff in. Between these 2 bits, I can probably do 90% of the kind of installing work that I need to do. So it's just nice to have some stuff kind of set up that once you've got it kind of there in a trolley, it's as simple as putting it in the van, you know, rather than running around trying to take things off the wall. And I have tried to get to the point where for kind of common hand tools, I've got a set that live in there and a set that are kind of out in the workshop. But yeah, so we'll carry on round. I think over here we've just got cabinet for glues and solvents and bits, a little metal cabinet. Got the music sound system. This old 1980s Philips boombox, but really good sound quality actually. It's a really nice sound to it. So that's quite good. Just some trolleys with bits and bobs, but this is kind of it now. I'll kind of stand in the middle and do a little pirouette and give you an idea. So this is the kind of layout of what's kind of the main workshop really. It's like certainly the machine room where all the machines are. Now through here is the spray room. So there's my spray booth. Got a load of fans for doing drying. I've got some of my pressure pot setup stuff there. A few cup guns of various types there for different things. I've got a pull out, airline thing, which is handy. Nice to be able to make it the length you want it so you're not dragging round loads behind you. So this is spray room, and then drying racks over here of various types. The spray booth has got like these hinged bits of ply on the edges, which I use as wings. So if I'm spraying smaller stuff, I'll bring them straight in so that it really channels the flow better. And then when I'm spraying bigger things, I fold them out, and you can get kind of bigger stuff. If you had a big face frame on lengths of skirting or something, you can get 3.5 meter skirting length in front of there and still spray it. There's a load of American white oak down there for a project that's starting next. And then I do kind of, when I'm not spraying, I use this room as a bit of a assembly room now. I keep my hospital bed workbench in here. It's just a bit of space. It's kind of easy to warm this one small room up. I've got ducting that comes through from the diesel heater. You can see it running along down there. And so it's nice and easy to get it nice and warm in here. So if it's cold, it's kind of a nice, pleasant place to work. So yeah, bit of a space used for assembly, but predominantly its main purpose is for spraying. And got like, at the minute, normally it's got the concertina filters on, but I've just stapled a bit of this fine filter over the top at the minute. And the cleaning air intake comes through the doors. You can see the doors have got some filter material. But now that I'm moving away from solvent finishes and more towards just water-based finishes, I'm actually thinking of recirculating the air in here to try and keep the heat more efficiently. So that could be another small change, but that's part of the reason why those filters are on there. That purple you can see on was some water-based finish that I was trying out for some vanity, for a vanity unit, and it's worked well, and it's kept the heat in here, which keeps the drying times good. So, it's not uncommon in the winter in the UK for it to be in bottom single figures. So if it's 3 or 4 degrees outside and you're spraying and you're emptying the air out of this room every few seconds, you're not going to keep any heat in here until after you turn your extractor off, and then it takes a while to come back up. Whereas if you're circulating the air in here, you can warm up this room and just keep moving that warm air around. And when I was using solvent-based finishes, that's not an option, because otherwise a load of filters will grab the particles of paint. They won't take the solvent out, and you end up basically making like a solvent-filled room, which is, even if you've got a mask on, it's not particularly good to be in that, and it's probably an explosion risk. So, but with the water-based finishes, all you're really trying to do is remove the particulates from the air. There's no solvent in the air to upset you. So that, I think, is the future for me. I mean, I've always steered clear of water-based finishes because I just find solvent a lot easier to work with. But I'm kind of getting to a point now where I think actually those solvent finishes are probably a better option for me. So we'll go around now from this part of the workshop. What I still haven't done is knocked a door through into the CNC room. I think it might have stopped raining for a minute. It might be all right, might stay dry. So yeah, still haven't knocked that door through, which is another job that needs doing, but we'll come through to here. So this is the CNC room. It's been moved and changed a bit since last time anyone saw it, I think. So we've got the Fabertech CNC. It's a very basic model, no tool changer, but it's 8x4, 6 horsepower spindle, and it's got a good vacuum bed on it. So it's kind of got the things that I really wanted. An auto tool changer would obviously be lovely, but it wasn't in my budget, and it was an option of either buying a tool without, a machine without a tool changer and having a CNC, or waiting a lot longer to get a CNC to get one with a tool changer. And I feel like this was probably the right decision for me. It probably depends what you do. I do a lot of small batch individual runs of one-off pieces. I think for that, you can kind of get away without having the tool changer as much. I think if you are a cabinet shop that is knocking out 2 kitchens a week of just basic gables where you're drilling and stuff, you'd be mad not to have the tool changer. But for me, it's worked okay. So that's the CNC. Got a timber rack over here that's just got a bit of various racking. Up the top here, we've got, these are flitches of veneer. This is all European oak. We've got some 1.5 mil. That's more 1.5 mil. I think that's 0.6 knife cut. So this is where I just keep my veneer on there. It just keeps it nice and flat. And I always put each pack with a bit of MDF in between it to work as a separator. So I know, you know, if I'm veneering up stuff and I want consecutive leaves to get a book match or a slip match or something, it makes it easier if you can keep it all stored that way and you're not then trying to shuffle through, trying to find which is which. Another small new addition is this walk behind pallet stacker forklift thingamajig. Now, it is old. It's about 20 years old. It's an old Crown one, which I think are actually American ones, actually. But it comes from a local Ford dealership. They were getting rid of it, as you can probably see by the Ford sticker that's still on there. But probably one of the best things I've ever bought. I mean, I've redone my racking because obviously now I've got the forklift, I can lift stuff right up the top. So whereas before my pallet rack was low because if I couldn't physically lift it on by hand, I couldn't get it back off again either. Whereas with that, it's been fantastic. Now, there was one really specific criteria for any kind of forklift type item that I got was that it needed to get underneath those doors. And this is one of like two different models that I've found searching, and I mean I searched for months for them, where this mast, when everything's collapsed down, this mast is about 6 inches lower than nearly every other one of these kind of walk behind pallet stackers that I found. And it's low enough that it's got about a half-inch clearance and it'll go underneath that garage door. So it's just perfect for me. Now, it's old. Batteries are probably not fantastic. It wouldn't work in a warehouse working, 12 hours a day or whatever. But for me, I'm getting the odd pallet off of a lorry. I'm getting, timber off a lorry. I'm getting stuff into the rack and out of the rack. I can charge it like once every 2 months and it's still fine for the amount I'm using it. So really pleased with that. It was cheap. It's worked well. Would definitely not want to be about it. I'm really, really happy with it. So then we've got down here, this is just the Hoover for hoovering off the CNC bed. And then over here, this is a whole load of English ash that I've got, which is, I say it's not really leftovers from a job. I had a job that I needed a load of English ash for, and I intentionally bought the full tree, the full ball, because I thought, I'll use it for something else. So it's not like it's been paid for on that job. I kind of knew that I was going to use it. But the plan is these middle two are quite nice and flat, as you can see. It's 60 mil thick, which is like, what, 2¼ inches, is that, something like that? So it's 60 mil thick. So what the plan is I'm going to cut that down. I'm going to flatten two of the slabs on there. And this is going to make, all this ash is going to be used to make a really nice Roubo workbench for the workshop at some point. It'll probably live on this trolley for the next 4 or 5 years before I get a chance to do it, because basically I need a bit of time when I don't need to be working, which is very unusual. So yeah, it's probably going to be a while before it happens, but eventually all this ash is going to be made into a nice Roubo workbench. So I've got a really nice flat, and I think I'm going to go sort of like unusual dimensions, go a bit wider, probably make it maybe like a metre wide, sort of 3'4" wide, something like that. Just because I want to be able to use it as an assembly surface that's dead flat as well. So hopefully that'll get done at some point, but it's on the list. So yeah, I think that is pretty much everywhere. So we've got really pleased with the racking, really pleased with the forklift. It definitely makes loading an awful lot easier by yourself. I mean, even this bottom row, this is a half a pack of 25mm moisture resistant Finzer Hydrofugo MDF. I think those sheets are like 75 kilos each. So what's that, like 160 pounds? Is that? I don't know. I can't. It's a bit over 2 pounds to a kilo, isn't there? So they're just heavy sheets to move onto a CNC by yourself. But with this, so easy. Just pick them up, bring them back. I lift the sheet height up to the bed and just slide it on. I never actually have to pick anything up. My back's never been in better condition, and it's been the last year since I've had this. So really, really pleased with it. So yeah, hope that was of some interest to someone. If there's any like specific bits people are interested in or want to know a bit about, then feel free to shoot me over a message in the comments or whatever, and I'll happily kind of like go through it. I say that vacuum press was something that I'm really pleased with, and I think it probably cost, if you had to buy a second-hand vacuum pump, you'd probably spend 500 quid making it, which compared to kind of 10k for like an Airpress Developments one or something is a pretty decent return on investment, I'd say. So yeah, I'll probably, next time I'm doing a bit of veneering, I'll try and make up a little short video just showing it in action and how well it works. I think my mate John's nipping over on Saturday or Sunday to maybe do a bit of veneering at the same time, so maybe when he's here we'll make a quick video, just because it's quicker for him to nip and use this here than it is to set up to do it at his place, sort of thing, because it really is nice and easy. So yeah, hopefully that's been interesting, and have a lovely whatever day it is that you're watching this.